because the whole joke is that none of them know that the other three are also Star Jones. The fun show called The Activist, which was going to debut on, I don't know, one of these networks that wants nothing to do with me. CBS. The Activist was announced, and it was going to be a reality competition show where people competed to be crowned the best activist.
In a battle for relevancy on social media.
Yes. It was something that I would pitch as a joke. CBS decided to actually fund and make a show where people would compete to be the best social media activist. And when I criticize celebrity activism, it's not so much that I'm not saying like, oh, it's not good. I'm saying it's not real. Like, it doesn't exist. See, it's depending on the way you feel, it might be misguided, but it's not even happening, is my point. It's just people talking. Nothing's going on. Occasionally there's some charity or slush fund that you can't really trace where the money goes. Occasionally there's a fundraiser where people go and eat nice food and wear designer clothing and they all write checks. And then a portion of that money gets funneled to something that may help someone somewhere down the line. But it's not really like direct action, right? And this is really what it is. And every now and then, Hollywood does something that's so heinous that they have to disavow it. Usually they try to defend what they do, even though they're on very shaky ground. Like the Imagine video, people are like, it makes people happy. Shut up. You're a cynic. Remember that when everybody got together in the beginning of the pandemic, when everybody was unemployed and everyone was shut down and nobody had a job, and the hero nurses we've heard endlessly about are all, supposedly the nurses found that comforting, I guess. I don't know. We couldn't get them PPE. They were wearing garbage bags, but apparently seeing Gal Gadot and all these people sing helped them. But Hollywood every now and then just does something so egregious that they have to immediately go, hey, our mistake, and retool. And The Activist competition, it's like The Apprentice for Black Lives Matter activists. Truly. No, it's The Apprentice for woke activists on Instagram. The tits out, we've all seen the Instagrams. Every hot chick on Instagram, and even most of the hot dudes, the profile picture is like BLM. Make sure the pronouns are in there. She, her, BLM, here are the tits. That was the show. They said, let's find hot, attractive, socially conscious activists to basically go and fool the world using CBS, which is a pretty large platform. Let's bring on people to play a trick, to play a joke on the world, and say that they are really concerned with activism, but have the time to participate in a reality show on CBS. In the midst of their very busy careers as activists, they have the time to do a reality competition show. Some would say it's a frivolous endeavor. Oh, no. It's going to get them a lot of new people to follow them on social media so they can continue to do better activism. Okay, this was the plot of the show. This, by the way, you don't realize how long or how shows have to get made. There's a process. and I've been through the process many times and it's never worked, but I know the process. There are layers of approval that you have to get from many different people. It's not just like one person goes, let's do it. This idea had to climb a ladder of multiple people that had to sign off on this, saying that this was a good idea. Also, this didn't start yesterday. This idea was not hatched a week ago, which makes me think that this idea probably came to an executive during the riots.
Yeah, the timeline makes sense.
The timeline does make sense.
Yeah.
So during the riots, after the murder of George Floyd, which was fucking, and like it was an execution killing of George Floyd, and all of these things that we're all figuring out. Tamir Rice, this poor kid who got shot, you know, who had a BB gun, and all of these different things that had made people really start talking about policing and rights and all that. During this time, someone in the town that I'm in right now had an idea for a show. They were looking at all these people on social media. Remember the black square? I put one up.
Yes, I remember.
The black square. I didn't know. I thought it was going to be a collage or something. Didn't turn out that way. The black square after, because if you were white the next day, you were just like, hey man, here's the black square, because that's nuts. I don't want to stand on anyone's neck, because we all know, and listen, it was a CIA psyop, sure, but sometimes, every now and then, you just go, sometimes a CIA psyop is better than people going, why the fuck did this piece of shit not post a black square? You look like you wouldn't post a black square. So I threw up that black square. And because that was, people were really figuring out how they were going to be like, hey man, this shit's fucked up. Like I don't go in with the narrative that all cops are horrible people, but there's a problem, right? You can't stand on someone's neck for 9 minutes. This is an issue. Around that time, when people were having those discussions, around that time, when people were calling for these ridiculous things that have been reversed, like defunding the cops and abolishing the cops, when none of that really works. But around that time, someone in the town I'm in now said, there's a show here. That's what they said. They go, there's a show. There's a show. They had to do this. They had to sit in a room and do this. With other executives, they had to go, we're so focused right now on positive change. No, this is what had to happen. And Ben's laughing because he knows this is exactly.
Well, there were tanks rolling down the street at this time, too, if you
No.
remember.
The country was on the brink of I don't want to say civil war, but whatever was going on was, I remember smoking a cigarette in Palm Springs. I was on the phone with Giannis, and we were watching these riots. We were going, this is fucking crazy. We're on the phone for 2 hours. I smoked like 2 packs of cigarettes just staring at these things. It was unbelievable. Just things getting lit on fire, and it was crazy. Yeah. During that time, someone went, we're all, in a meeting, and basically it was a Zoom meeting, probably nobody's in the office. Yeah. So on a Zoom call, they went, there's just this young generation of activists that we really respect. Think Parkland, think David Hogg, Emma Gonzalez, they're young, they're hungry for change, they're smart, they're well-spoken, they're telegenic. We just feel like right now this moment is so important. They love the word moment. They're like, this moment is so important. What we want to do is pit these activists against each other on television in a competition setting and have them do, and by the way, we have not even gotten, God help us, to what the challenges would have been. Because in a competition show, there needs to be challenges. There needs to be something introduced as a variable to see who survives and who does not. There's got to be, remember, at the end of any competition show, Survivor, you're off the island, Project Runway, whatever, Top Chef, pack your knives and go. Going back to the weakest link, you are the weakest link, goodbye. All of that, you're out. So they had to dismiss, there was going to be a way to dismiss these activists. I don't know what they were going to say.
It was designed to show so it was long hours and ingenuity that activists put into changing the world. I mean,
what were the challenges going to be? Like, what I mean by that is this is a competition show.
right, of course.
So there's got to be some type, because by the way, they had these discussions too. They were like, there's got to be some type of competition here. Otherwise, people are going to get bored pretty quickly. So we need a challenge. Like, we need to see who, like, should we drop all of the people off in Ferguson? This was real. These were conversations that were had on Zoom by production companies and networks. Should we drop them all off in Ferguson for the anniversary of Michael Brown's death and see what they do? Is that going to play? Should we drop them off in Ferguson and see what they come up with? What will they do? What if they each have to do memorials to Michael Brown, but they eat like one, they all choose the memorial. Like, some are going to do a parade, some are going to do like a sit-in, some are going to do like direct action, some are going to do like, and we have to see who does it better. We have small teams of activists. I mean, what was the show going to be? Do they describe what the show was going to be?
So this person that was on the show, Alicia O'Sullivan, an Ireland-based activist and speaker who works to raise youth awareness on climate change.
She just wants to bomb Protestants. That's not activism. They got an Irish? What?
She told the Daily Beast that she was contacted about appearing on the show. By the end of her interview, she recalls she got the sense that no one quite grasped the concept of activism. So whatever these challenges
they have no idea.
They didn't know what it was.
Hollywood doesn't know what activism is. They think it's just another kind of entertainment. Hollywood thinks activism is just another way to build a brand. They think it's like skateboarding. They think it's like, somebody who's like into like yoga. They don't understand that it's supposed to have like an effect. They don't get it because they don't want the effect. They're living in $10 million houses. They don't understand. They think that like activism is just a brilliant way to build a brand. So they don't get it. They have no idea. They don't. They're like, oh, so you're the activist. So you like care. So we love it. You're like socially conscious. You're woke. You're young. You're hip. I'm loving it. Are you biracial? Perfect. You have the burden of educating one half of your family and the legacy of the other half of your family. Love it. I'm eating it up. You are perfect. You're 23, Ivy League educated. Perfect. Grew up in the suburbs, but you had cousins in the inner city and visited them. Yes. This is what we want. Now, the goal of this, of course, for you is a book deal and Netflix. Yes? Well, I want to change criminal justice reform. Yeah. Sure. We all do. But the immediate goal here is we'd like to build your socials. Do we see merch? Do we see a clothing line? Do we see a clothing line? That's what Hollywood is. I mean, it's not a town built by good people for good people.
This person said, so this person, Hogan, they said they kept pressuring me to answer questions in a very certain way. When I was recounting my personal story, they very offensively told me that I sounded like a robot. I just felt so much pressure in those moments that I literally reached a breaking point on the call and burst into tears. I guess that was the most horrifying moment because then there was the pleasure on his face like, yes, we finally got the shot. We finally got you breaking on camera.
Yeah, well, that's what it is.
This sounds more like a documentary than a reality show. I don't see any...
No, but they've changed it.
Yeah, now they've changed it from a reality show to a documentary.
It was going to be a competition. A reality show where there's a winner.
I saw they had metrics with social media followers. It's kind of all I could tell.
Yeah, because, again, their concept of activism is social media followers. So to them, The Rock is the biggest activist.
Right.
No. And to people in Hollywood, The Rock is the most successful activist in America. Because he's got, 115 million Instagram followers? Something like that.
Something crazy.
So he's the most successful guy. So that's the metric they decide. The Jenners are the second most successful activists in America. because it's all based on social media following.
It's great.
Again, if you haven't been in this town or dealt with any of these people, this comes as a shock to you.
Right.
But it doesn't come as a shock to me. What comes as a shock to me is how quickly they disown it. And you know why they disowned it? Because who's this? Usher?
Julianne Hough and
Priyanka
Chopra
Jonas. Who's that? Joe Jonas's wife or one of the Fred Joe? Who are the Jonases? Did I say Fred?
Well,
there is a Freddie one. Bonus Jonas. He hates being called that. I think he just lives in Soho and does crack. The baby Jonas. What's his name?
Well, there's only 3.
No.
Oh, there is 4.
Who's
Interesting.
who's the
Kevin Jonas, Joe Jonas, Nick Jonas, and then who's the 4th?
The 4th? I read about him. He's just in New York all day and he has anxiety and he's on TikTok. Frankie. He's on TikTok.
There he is.
He's on TikTok, and I think he does pills, but I don't know. So, you know what happened? They announced a show. Now, you got to remember, these celebrities all signed on to the show.
Mm-hmm.
So they shouldn't be able to get out of this because they all signed on. Like, she signed on because, they needed a woman of color. They're like, we're going to go with you. And then they go, we're going to go with Usher. And then who's third here?
Julianne
Hough?
Who is this?
Just like a
American Dancer?
Yeah, like nothing.
Oh, she's a nothing. Yeah.
She's nothing.
She's literally nothing.
So she's just there to be white and blonde hair and sit there and not scare everybody.
Oh, Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, the way networks think about Julianne Hough is they go, we need a white chick in there so that people don't automatically feel like they're being brought before a tribunal of people of color. Yeah. So we need Julianne Hough who looks like, some girl who walked out of a barn. They all signed on to this, okay? And they filmed it. Please leak this footage.
I want to see this so
Listen
bad.
to this. Usher, Priyanka Chopra, and Julianne Hough set up for The Activist, CBS competition series from Global Citizen. And let's read a little bit about the deadline release here. And you didn't have to wait long. I'm so excited to announce I'll be co-hosting The Activist. We're going to meet 6 incredibly inspirational people paying it forward in this world. Stay tuned. CBS and producing partners Global Citizen announced the format switch, saying The Activist was designed to show a wide audience the passion, long hours, and ingenuity that activists put into changing the world, hopefully inspiring others to do the same. Right, that was the goal.
Right.
That was the goal. However, it has become apparent the format of the show, as announced, distracts from the vital work these incredible activists do in their communities every day. Like making them do 3-legged races or whatever, like whatever they were going to do, right? Making them cook. The push for global change is not a competition anymore. I want this show as it originally was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. Give it to me as it originally was supposed to happen. I want a contest outside of a Planned Parenthood. That's what I want to see. I want to see Julianne Hough judging the photos of whatever women in guillotines or handmaid tale. Like I could see like somebody doing a handmaid tale thing outside of a Planned Parenthood and like Julianne Hough and Usher and Priyanka, they're all sitting there and they're like, that was brilliant. It was socially conscious. It was now. The Handmaid's Tale, such a big show. And we just love the way that you took pop culture elements and infused your activism with it. You remain. And then there's just claps, And then somebody else, they're like, you came out here with just the law. And you had these tablets. It looked like 10 Commandments, but they were like the rights of women. We just felt that it didn't connect. We felt that the tablet seemed a little weird, a little religious, which is actually kind of what we're fighting. And I know that you were trying to repurpose religion for, obviously a pro-woman moment, but we just felt like it didn't work. And we are so sorry, but you're going home. Please give me that show. I want that show. I don't want a show where I'm just going to be introduced to these people.
No, and they're so tone deaf. You think that they were fighting before this change. They were fighting to like go to Kabul, like go to Afghanistan, and like help people for the season finale.
Yeah, no, the executives at CBS were like, we need something big for the season finale. They would have brought out Michael Brown's mother. No, I'm not kidding. These people are so soulless. They are soulless. They would have offered her a lot of money, and they would have brought her out to crown who's the top activist. These people don't have souls. I'm talking to everyone I've met, okay? Everyone I've met in Hollywood that's in these positions, they desperately want to convince themselves they're not evil. And they just don't know how. That's why they step in shit like this. Like, they don't understand why this would be offensive. They don't understand the difference between activism and performative activism. They don't get why activism can't be a competition. They don't understand why having the most social media followers at the end of the day doesn't make you the best activist. They don't get it. They have no commitment